Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to everyone. Welcome. As I like to say every week when I make my presentation, I'm still called Dr. Arnold Nerenberg. And I've been licensed to practice clinical psychology in the state of California since 1974. And I like to say I've been licensed to walk upon this earth since 1941. I'm a little bit over 83 now. My pleasure, my privilege, and my enjoyment to be in your presence and have the opportunity to give you lessons and insights and inspirations of a lifetime with an intention of uplifting you and your loved ones for the rest of your life. That's my intention, to uplift you and your loved ones for the rest of your lives. The title of today's presentation is The Secret to Being the Best Father You Can Be. The secret to being the best father you can be. A day ago, it was yesterday, Monday, I said to my wife, what do you think the people most need to hear? Because my wife is very wise and good insight. She said, well, yesterday was Father's Day, this last Sunday. So why don't you do something for fathers? Well, that's a good idea. So that's what led to this. Now, when I'm talking about fathers, I'm talking about the biological fathers, and I'm talking about moms who are both single moms who are mothers and fathers both to their kids. So this will apply there in many ways as well. Now when I talk about this, I'm going to talk about normal marriage where there's unity and love. Of course, no marriage is perfect. There are issues, but where basically both partners are faithful to each other. There's no really destructive resentment going on. Talking about that situation, which is many of the marriages. So a key secret, there's really a number of secrets, a key secret to being the best father you can be: love your children's mother. One of the best things you can do for your child or your children is to love the mother. That gives the child security. That creates a harmony in the home. Love the mother. I see many fathers devoted to their children. In fact, sometimes it looks more about both parents when I talk about what's their purpose in life. Many parents will talk about being a good mother, being a good father. Well, that's great. That is wonderful. You need to be a good husband. That's key. That's going to add the security and the harmony. That doesn't mean, now some people think, well, you don't want to ever argue in front of the kids. Many people think that you shouldn't fight in front of the kids. Well, there's some wisdom in that. But I have another suggestion. It's okay if the kids see you argue, as long as they see you make up. It's all right if you sometimes argue, disagree, fight, if you want to call it that, as long as it doesn't go on too long, it doesn't get violent. That's what I'm talking about, a normal situation. And they see you make up. If the child doesn't see that, they grow up, they get married, something goes wrong, and they go, what is this? What is the matter with you? My parents never fought. My parents never fought. So, if the child sees you fighting or sees you argue, that helps prepare the child for reality. And that is the main job for you as a father, is preparing your child to be in the world, to have good character, to be able to make a livelihood, and to continue the bloodline, bringing others into this world who will follow good character, follow the way of honor. Now, It's key that you express your love for your child and your children. Absolutely essential that you have that unconditional love. Most of us fathers, I have 7 children, we would die for our children. But to express that love in whatever way you can, through action is best, and of course words. But one of the worst things you can do is allow the child to disrespect you, or the child to disrespect his or her mother. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. It must be said, hey, I'm your father, it's your mother, you can't talk to us that way. You must talk to us with respect, or this will be the consequence. I'm not talking about doing it in an abusive way, but it has to be done firmly. It has to be consequences if it's not done. There has to be consequences if there's disrespect. The child has a right to self-expression as long as it's in a respectful manner. Of course, they will learn a lot from you in terms of how you talk to your wife and how your wife talks to you. So the things you want your child to have, you must manifest yourself. The child will become as you are, not as you tell him or her to be. It won't be who you tell him or her to be. They're going to become you. They're going to become you. You know, when your child was an infant, they were maybe looking like this. 2 weeks old, month. People think, well, kids, it just looks like this doesn't look too sharp. But guess what? They're learning tremendously. They're learning what it is to be a human being. They're internalizing it. They're picking up the whole thing. As they get a little bit older, you start seeing they're doing all this stuff, and they're imitating you. So that time that looked like it was nothing going on, wrong. A lot was going on. They're picking you up, picking up the mother, internalizing that. They're internalizing you. One of the best things you can do, another secret of being the best father you can be, is to live with honor. And I'm defining honor as loyalty to your highest constructive values as enshrined in the 4 commandments of honor, while striving to cause no harm physically and emotionally. Now, the 4 commandments of honor, and you want to live by these, you want to be repeating these 3 times a day. I wish you well. I take full responsibility for co-creating my reality and my problems. I'm grateful for the power I gain from hardship. And then one of 2 depends whether you believe in God or not. If you don't believe in God or want to address God, I seek always to serve my highest value. If you believe in God as I do, God, your wish is my only wish. Now, the repetition, doing it 3 times a day, the repetition is preparation for application to achieve stabilization. All things you want to be internalizing that. That will affect your character. That will affect how you speak to your wife. That will affect how you speak to your child. You want to be able to speak to your child, but you also want to listen to the child. The child's reality is very important to the child. Doesn't mean you have to give him or her what they want, but we have to show the respect of at least listening as best we can to what they want to tell us. So it's not a two-way street. We're just telling them how to be. They're going to become how we are. And by listening to them, we hear what their thoughts are, what their concerns are. It's very real to the child. In terms of respect, if they don't respect you, they get away disrespecting you, guess what? You're damaging the child. You're damaging the child. How? Well, they're not going to respect themselves because you're internalizing your child. They're going to disrespect themselves. And they'll disrespect the institutions of society and the laws of God itself. They'll disrespect the institutions. The main problem in our schools today is not funding. You can have a leaky roof, bad computers, and get a great education if the child respects his teacher. Or if they don't respect you, it's highly more probable that they won't respect the teacher. So respecting you is one of the key ingredients to a good education for your child, because they'll respect the teacher and they'll learn from the teacher. So the respect that you insist on is a great gift for the child. A great gift for your children. Wonderful gift. Not talking about being overly punitive, but reward and punishment. You need to find your way of doing that in a reasonable way. It's not damaging. That promotes growth. Keep in mind, your job is to get the child ready for a life when they leave the home, and to walk in the way of honor. If you have a belief in God, to pass that on. Very important. Very important. That's your job. Now let me tell you what your job is not. Let me tell you what your job is not, because a lot of people really don't get this. You are not an entertainment committee. You are not an entertainment committee. You take them to Disneyland, that's great. That's not the main part of your job. You go to all the games, or soccer games, or baseball games, that's great. That's not your main job. If a child's going to be involved in sports, teach them how to be honorable in their sports. To be an honor athlete. It's not your job. The main job is not entertainment, although it's great if you do some of that. The main job is educational in nature, for the development of character, for preparedness for life. And then for that, you need to understand certain things yourself. You need to understand the difference between a job, a career, a calling, and a destiny. Because you want your child to actualize their potential, his or her potential. Job is something you do from 9 to 5 to pay your bills. It's a necessity. It's got to be done. But a career is a job that you enjoy. A calling is a career you love so much you would do for free if you could afford to. And a destiny is a calling you would actually pay to do if you could afford to do that. Now, me as a psychologist, I would do it for free if I could afford to. Heck, I'd even pay to do it, to meet all the great human beings that I've met. Oh my God. Beautiful to see people struggle against all the factors in life and see their nobility emerge. Beautiful to me. So I'm serving my destiny. And to the extent that you are, or you're educating your children towards that, because livelihood is a key, big part of life. Then, of course, you want to be prepared for them having their significant other, their spouse. And that you're doing by what they see in your marriage. That's the education there. The life you live is a life they'll follow. The life you talk about, words doesn't sink in as well. Now, you want to have quality time with each child. I have 7. You got to be strict. I recommend an hour and a half alone time with each child. Alone time. It's great to have the family gathering. That's wonderful. That should be done. We need one-on-one because things will be expressed. Things will emerge on a one-to-one that won't come out in the group. Are the siblings there? The spouse is there? May not come up. One-on-one, you could start really finding out what's going on with their thoughts, their feelings, their fears, what your life's about. 90 minutes alone time is excellent. And of course, you know, if you're feeding your child junk food, you know, you're giving them, you know, chips all the time and Twinkies and meats all the time. Well, guess what? They'll start developing plaque in your arteries from 2-3 years old. They'll start getting plaque, coronary disease. And by the time they're 40, 50, blood pressure problems, maybe a heart attack. Maybe getting diabetic, getting obese. So one of the best things you can do for your child is to have a healthy diet yourself, you and your wife. You want to have a foundation of beans, greens, and berries. Beans, greens, and berries. Then, of course, whatever you want to add, particularly salmon, nuts, garlic, onions, mushrooms, whatever else. One of the greatest things you could give your child to be the best father you can be is to show them the way of health. And of course, show them the way of health, not just talk about health, show them the way of health. They should be definitely on vitamin D supplements, because most people, children and adults, have a vitamin D deficiency, or they're not on an optimal level. So you want to have knowledge about that. In terms of I see many people who are blue collar. I love the blue collar people, so real. Many are truck drivers, but many have other jobs as well. And they want their children to go to higher education, become a doctor or accountant, something where they don't have to work necessarily as hard as you do with using your hands. You can talk about that, and that's great. But let me tell you what really helps. If they see you reading at the house and you have books, that has a big impact. They see you reading a book. They see their mother reading a book. You'll be amazed how many people don't have any books in their houses. Have a book that you're reading, find some area of interest. If the child sees that, then they can be attracted to that. Now, one of the commandments of honor, I take full responsibility for co-creating my reality and my problems. You see you co-created a problem, they see you apologize to your wife. Whoa! The child sees you apologize to your wife. That's putting honor before pride. And it might even be times where you have to apologize to your child. Hey, sweetheart, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Please forgive me. Beautiful. That doesn't happen too often to many people, but it should. It's a healthy thing. Because when they see you put honor before pride, when they see you put honor before pride, they're going to do that. If they just see you prideful and being self-defensive and fighting to just blame somebody else, blame your wife, whatever, that's what they're going to do. I'm considered the world's leading authority on road rage. We conducted a study to see what the main contributors to road rage were. People of road rage, I'm talking about behaviors, showing anger on the road, flipping somebody off, beeping at someone out of anger, flipping headlights up and down, tailgating somebody, throwing something out your window at them, whatever, screaming at them out the window, shouting obscenities and they're hearing you doing that. We found that the biggest factor in your child's risk of developing road rage when you're an adult, guess what? It's you, and you're a road rage. So they get the idea, well, you want to turn right, you turn signals right, you want to go left, you turn left, somebody cuts you off, you give them the finger. You give them the finger. That's how you drive. Dad did that. And your mom might have done it too. So, the thought you want to use, if you're prone to that, and 53% of Americans have this issue, according to our study of 1,500 people that we interviewed, is use this statement: I refuse to allow you to control my anger ever. I refuse to allow you to control my anger ever. Because otherwise, you're giving control over your anger to these people that you think of as an idiot. People you don't know. You never saw them before, you're never going to see them again, and they're controlling you, making you into a raving lunatic, aging you, detracting from your life, the quality of your life. So if you use that, the child learns to just take those things in step. You could say, see, son, that person cut me off. I used to get angry. Now I just wish them well. I'm not going to let them control my anger. And that's quite a lesson. Now, of course, being a good husband, you need to understand your sexuality. Absolutely. Most people don't know about the cow study. You bring a cow and heat to a bull, he mounts her. no surprise. You bring that same cow the next day, he won't mount her. Might be a little surprising, but that's a fact. You bring another cow and he'll mount her, because there's a thing in the genetics of the male to spread the seed for the survival of his DNA. And we have it as men, as males. What separates a male from a man is honor. What separates a male from a man is honor. And you want to teach that. If you have a son, you want to teach that to your son. Your son, we're all males. We're born, we're both males. We're born that way because of our genitalia. But only honor makes us men. Or we restrain ourselves from sexual expressions. That's key. Because if you don't teach that to your son, he's going to follow with his friends, and that's going to lead to a lot of pain in his life and in women's life who's around him. As a dad, of course, we want to be friends with the child, but we're the father. That's key. You take a 2-year-old running across the street, a car's coming at him, you grab that child, because the child wants to get across that street or get a ball in the street. You grab him, he screams, kicking, why are you doing this? The child doesn't even know you saved his life. He doesn't like you right then. But you know what's best for your child. You know what's better for your children than they know for themselves. You know what's best for your children more than they know for themselves. Now, when they get a certain age, and it varies depending on the child, it could be 10, 12, 20, but at some point, you go from being a director to an advisor. At some point, you go from being a director to an advisor. You can't direct them anymore. By age 6, their personality is done. This was what it used to be said. I think the numbers have changed. It would say by 6, the education is done. By 6, the personality is finished. And by 10, the value system is established. There'd be some controversy about some of those numbers. But you get the idea. It gets pretty well set early. And this is what they need to be exposed to the best of what you have to give them early on. Now, this is an overview. I'm 83 years old, 7 children. My oldest is just turned 50. So I've been 50 years a father. I'm passing this on to you. This is what it takes, the secret to being the best father you can be. If you follow my guidance, there's a much better chance of a good connection with your child, and that your child will have a good life. Now, I want to thank you for allowing me to present this to you. I'm going to open this up to our wonderful people here, our wonderful, delightful people with so much wisdom. I'm going to ask you to make whatever comment you want to make, whatever question you want to ask. Keep in mind that the other people in our audience benefit more from what you have to say as much as more that what you have to say than what I say, because they like to hear from each other what other people are going through. So I open it up to you now.
Hey, Dr. Nerenberg.
Yes, who's speaking, please?
This is Frankie.
Frankie! Sorry, it's good to hear from you, Frankie.
Yeah. So you know what you were saying about like how children and school and in the classroom environment. I used to be a teacher in Japan, and obviously Japan's a very unique culture, but it was very easy teaching kids in Japan, and I believe it. My theory is that there's a hierarchy that's established in Eastern cultures more than Western cultures, where there's parent to child, versus in Western cultures I see a more equal parent to child relationship. Absolutely true,
Frankie.
So I think it's hard to have that teaching moment. It's harder in like Western countries because children will speak up more and rebel. which is harder in this society.
Well, if we could turn this around in one generation in America, but we have to bring respect back into the family. And once respect is there, it's going to be a lot better in the school situation. They get a much better education. Absolutely. Great point. I totally agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And it's something minor, but like what I notice is it's also in the language, like over there, and other Eastern cultures, you have to say, father to your father or teacher to your teacher. Here, like the language is, you no longer say Mr. or whatever, or professor, you just say the first name. So that equalizes the power and hierarchy, I think.
We're all equal in the sight of God, but not in terms of, teaching a teacher-student relationship. We're not equals there. But, we're equal, have equal rights by law, equal in the sight of God, but in terms of one person's up here on his knowledge and the other is over here in many areas. And we're not equals in so many ways, in so many areas, although as a human being, the dignity of each must be preserved. In that way, we're equal. But very good point. Excellent. Those are good terms of respect to address the person. Absolutely. The language matters. I agree with you, Frankie. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Frankie. Who else would like to make a comment, ask a question?
Dr. Nerenberg, it's Brian.
Hey, Brian. Good to see you.
How you doing, sir?
Good. Glad to see you, Brian.
It's good to be seen. I was put in a position where I was mediating a dispute between my son and his mother. He was living with her, and then they had a lot of conflict, and then she had some personal issues come up. So he moved out. He was 19, just turned 20, so it was time anyway. But the problem was she was pushing him so hard, he ended up having to block her communication through his phone, and that made her very, very, very angry. She was going through me trying to get me to mediate, and as I was trying to mediate between the two of them, I mean, I used to do this for a living. As I was trying to mediate between the two of them, I saw that she was being extremely unreasonable. Her anger was driving her, and her reason was not anywhere near the surface. I kept trying to tell her that she was pushing him away with her anger, but she wasn't hearing me. She wasn't hearing him, and she wasn't hearing me. So in dealing with him, I was trying to maintain the even if you're not agreeing with your mother, you need to respect her and listen to her. But I was having a heck of a time trying to find middle ground.
Okay, let me tell you something that will help. Let me tell you something that helps. You had them both. They were both in the same room at the same time.
No, sir. He's very angry.
All right, so they were both on the phone, separate places. What was the situation? Were they together in a room talking, or were each in their own room on the phone?
No, the mediation, I was more of a messenger.
Oh, so you went from one place to the other.
She wanted to talk to him on the phone, but he wouldn't talk to her anymore.
So she would give you a message. Okay.
Every time he did, it was an attack.
All right, let me ask you a question.
He perceived it as an attack.
So she gave you a message, you went to him. He gave you a message, you brought it to her. Is that what happened?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm trying to understand your scenario. When you say you were a messenger, are you saying she would give you a message for her son, you'd bring the message to him, and then he would give you a message to take to her? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, through the telephone, through texting.
Texting.
Because she wanted to talk to him.
All right, let me tell you. Okay.
She would talk to him. It would
Brian, I'm going to tell you the best way to deal with that right now, okay?
Okay.
It's wonderful that you're willing to be in that position. But I'll tell you the best way to deal with it. You say to your wife, sweetheart, I know you love your son. Is that right? Yeah, I'm sure she does. You would give him his kidney if you need it? That's right. You would die for your son? You take a bullet for him? Yeah. Then you say to your son, to the son, you know your mother loves you so much, she would give you her kidney, she would die for you, she'd take a bullet without hesitation for you. I want you to know that, son. I just want to set the foundation for the rest of the communication. That's how your mother loves you. Son, do you believe your mother, even if she's wrong, wants the best for you or not? She's going to say, yeah, she wants the best. I'm not saying she knows what's best for you. There comes a time, son, where a parent has to be an advisor, not a director. But she does, you would agree she wants the best for you. That's right, son. So she has good intentions. Is that correct, son? Yeah. You're going to get a yes. You don't have to like what she's saying, son, but how many people do you know, son, that would give you a kidney without hesitation and take a bullet for you without hesitation? How many people you know like that, son? Oh, just your mom and me? That's it? None of your friends, your cousins, or nobody else? Just your mom? Well, I think that buys her, like maybe gives her a little room for screwing things up at times. Doesn't it, son? Because we don't know anybody else to take a bullet for you. Now, then everything, when you build on that foundation, you could do it. If you don't do it on that, she's going to blow them away with her anger. But with that foundation, there's a chance, and a good chance, but you have to keep coming back to that foundation. She sends a message. You say, look, son, I know you don't like this message, but just remember, she take a bullet for it. It's got to buy her some leeway in how you respond. That would be the best way to do it.
Thank you, doctor.
Yeah, that'll be the best way. Thank you, Brian, for sharing that. That's a great scenario. Great scenario. You're a great man to step in the middle of that. That's not easy.
Yeah, and I used to do that for a living.
Yeah, no, you know, mother-daughter is even harder. That's tough.
Yeah, that's tough when it's family.
Very tough. And, you know, you're part of the family. You're not an outsider coming in. You're not the professional in the family. You're just another guy. When you did it professionally, you were the professional. You had more weight. You don't have too much weight in the situation. But I just gave you the best way to do it if you'd have to do it in the future.
Thank you for the advice.
You're most welcome. Wonderful.
Doctor, this is Nancy. I have a question.
Nancy. Yes, Nancy.
So you mentioned when, you know, we still have to actually discipline a child, right?
Absolutely.
A toddler.
Not as a toddler. They really start coming in around 5.
Oh, okay. Well, when we, let's say, try to redirect him, in what manner should we, like, talk to him?
As gently as possible.
Angry voice or...
Well, sometimes if it's danger where the child can get electrocuted, sticking his fingers in the socket, you know, you may have to flick the hand, hurt him a little bit or something, or you know, harsh voice there.
Not out of it.
But generally, you know, with the least amount of harshness possible to get the job done, especially when it comes to survival, and it comes to not being injured, that has to be pretty strong. At 5, you know, the language develops better. You can have a communication. You can start punishment and rewards more. But otherwise, it's extremely directive when you're younger. But before 5 years old, you can start punishing in a reasonable way.
Okay, timed out and things like that.
Usually, a timeout's not the best. I'm going to take away this toy if you do that one more time, you know, whatever.
All right. And then the last question I have is, so we like to horseplay with him a lot. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, for instance, today he came up to me and I know he was playing, but he kicked me. And as you know, my leg is bad. So, I got really upset about that. But I know he didn't mean harm because I saw it in his face.
Well, yeah, he didn't mean harm. It's good that's the thing. How old is he?
He's 4.
4. So his language is coming in pretty well?
Yes. Yeah. He can communicate
now. Father-son doing it's pretty good. He might kick his father, once he hurt his father a little bit, but, it's just part of the horseplay. But kicking you hard, yeah, that can happen. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have the horseplay. Just got to deal with what comes up, but horseplay can be a lot of fun.
Okay, yeah, because he'll apologize. Like,
yeah, but
most of the time he'll realize, I think he's old enough to realize, like, oh, I did owie to mommy. And so he'll apologize. And if he saw me get mad.
and he might get hurt in some of the horseplay, and then you apologize, or your husband apologize. Seeing apologies is fine. I mean, getting hurt a little bit, as long as you're not getting a serious injury, it's okay.
It's okay to play with him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome, Nancy. Who else would like to make a comment or ask a question?
Hello, Dr. Nerenberg. This is Adura.
Dura?
Adura.
Adura. Yeah. Hello, Adura.
Hi, how's it going? I'd like to make a comment just on Brian's situation. Brian, I'm just coming from a son that I actually don't have a good relationship with both my parents. My parents come from a very religious, very judgmental background. And I don't know the full story between your son and the mom, but I feel that even, we're talking about Father's Day, and this was one of those rare moments that I didn't say Happy Father's Day to my dad because of a lot of triggering things he said. And one of the best things because I don't want to react in anger or say something more terrible, is I'll not talk to him. And there's a reason why your son, because he doesn't want to react in anger, and the anger from the mom is triggering him. Doesn't want to say something terrible. That's why we don't say anything, especially when we try to talk with both of them.
Well, here's the thing. That's why that's very good point. But that's why the proper foundation has to be set exactly the way I said to do it, because that will reduce the triggering. Once you understand this is the only person, or only one of 2 people that will die for him, take a bullet for him, offer the kidney without hesitation if he needed it, that will make...
Doctor, may I interject? It's obvious, like 100%. I know they'll do that for me. And they think they'll do that for people, for that. But I just feel that, like, a lot of times, especially in the society, doesn't matter if it's Western or Eastern, because of the hierarchy, I think a lot of parents abuse the use of the hierarchy to neglect accountability.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have to be really careful and take it with a grain of salt, because you hear, because I'm your dad, why would you do that to me? And you'd be like, wait a minute, but you did this to me. So what's the problem?
Well, I'm going to give you.
I feel like we should take that grain of salt.
No, I'm going to give you the answer to that. To give you the correct approach to it. The first condition is the parent needs to express that unconditional love. If a father punishes his son and the son doesn't feel loved, that can be very damaging. Very damaging. If the son feels loved, it will not scar him, or will not traumatize him. He knows the dad loves him, and then that makes then whatever else is added to that, punishment, chastisement, in the context of love, will not traumatize or damage the child. If the child doesn't feel love, they'll feel abused. They're going to feel mistreated. They're going to feel it's just very unfair. But in the context of love, the best possible constructive outcome will come. And certainly unfairness and not paying attention to the child's reality, we're talking about listening to the child. But the child doesn't have to like his father or his mother. but there must be the respect. And if that's lost, our society, and that's widespread, our society is going to be lost from that. Now,
but doctor, has respect earned when your parents don't respect you?
Now, certainly to respect the child. Firstly, it's instinctive for a child to respect the parent. That's instinct. However, it's also instinctive to test limits. Now, the child owes respect. The parents have that unconditional love for the child. The child doesn't have that unconditional love for the parent. It's more conditional. The parent has that love. So the best thing a parent can do is express that love, show respect, and as I say, the respect of the parent does not have to be earned. It's instinctively there, unless it's destroyed. So it's instinctively there. And if the child gets away with disrespecting the father or the mother, then the respect will start eroding away. But it's just naturally there. If children, we weren't genetically wired for that, children would be, a lot more children would be dead at an earlier age, because that's staying in line and respecting the parent is what has a strong survival value for it. Very good points. I'm really glad you brought this up. These are wonderful, wonderful points. Wonderful. Absolutely. Thank you.
No problem. Hi, Doctor. Oh, hey, Dr. Arnold.
Who's speaking, please?
Nestor.
Nestor.
How's it going? I was hearing same thing to you, sir. You faded out for a second. Please say it again. Oh, I just want to say happy belated Father's Day.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Same thing, this on Sunday for Father's Day, my son, comes up to me, he's 12, and he's like, happy Father's Day. And I'm like, thanks. And he goes, hey, is your dad still alive? And I'm like, yeah, he's still alive. And I go, he asked me, why don't you talk to him? I go, oh, we stopped our communication when my mom died. And he goes, so why haven't you called him? Have you called him? And I go, no, I haven't really called him. We just didn't have a connection. And he goes, well, why don't we call him and not deal with this expectation of like, why are you, wondering why he doesn't call you, or let's just call him, and you got to promise, you got to tell him you love him. And I'm like, okay. And then so I ended up calling him, and
wow.
Yeah, he was like, I love you, and I'm sorry I haven't talked to you. I just been so busy. I just told him, hey, you know what? I know there's been ups and downs. I just wanted to tell you I love you. And,
wow.
My son was like the same way. Hey, Grandpa, I love you. I know we haven't talked for years.
What was his response to that? It's amazing. I love hearing that. What was his response?
He was actually waiting. Like, his expectations were the same as mine. We're both waiting to call each other, but, it was like, I grew up like, very like, our parents were very strict on us and everything. And
well, Nestor, first let me say this: much respect to you, Nestor. Much respect.
Yeah.
Because that's
actually, it was really nice.
And your son is amazing. Your son is amazing. God bless
you.
His
wife, for sure.
Amazing, Nestor. What you did is what should be done. Yeah, it should be done. That's your father. I know there are issues. I'm not saying he was a perfect father. I'm sure he's far from it, like all of us. But what you did, I'm sure changed his life. I'm sure it just created a tremendous feeling within him that he'll never forget that you did that.
Yeah, it was nice. It really was. It made me feel at ease. My expectation was like, I don't even know why I was waiting so long. I felt like there was never a connection, but since my son's like, he made a comment when I hung up the phone with him. He goes, just know that I would never be mad at you. If we mad at each other, I would still call you on Father's Day. And I was like, oh man, this guy is just making me cry, because he's like, I don't want you to ever feel that way between us. And I'm like, yeah. I go, well, I raised you different than the way my dad raised me, but because just know you can always call him, and know that I will always call you no matter what.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
You should really be thanking your son every day for what he did. son,
he's so wise.
No, you just got to thank him, son. You know, and I'll tell you one thing. You gave your son a grandfather.
Mm.
He might be a better grandfather than he was father. That's pretty common.
Well, I didn't think about that.
You gave your son his grandfather. Wow. Nestor, that's awesome. Wow. That's very inspiring and touching for all of us to hear that.
Thank you, Doctor.
You see, you put honor before pride.
Yeah.
Your pride, you didn't want to. You didn't want to do it.
I pushed it to the side.
Nestor, you didn't want to make that call.
Yeah, it was really like a drag.
No, you didn't want to do it. I know you didn't want to do it, but you did it. You did the honorable thing. Wow, I'm proud of you. Wow, that's very touching. Thank you so much, Nestor, for sharing that.
Hey, Doctor.
Yes, who's speaking?
Ruben.
Ruben, good to see you, Ruben.
Yeah. Happy Father's Day.
And happy Father's Day to you. Thank you, Ruben.
So I wanted to give my input if I could.
Please.
You know, the Bible says that we should honor our parents at all times.
Yes.
Regardless whether they lose that honor or not, you know. If a parent isn't respecting their kids, that doesn't mean that, and this is my opinion, right? And this is what's worked for me. Doesn't mean that you disrespect them back or you take the disrespect. You know, maybe being a little distant from your father or mother who's being maybe abusive is okay. But that doesn't mean you lose respect for them or honor for them. You stick around because they will come around. They will come around.
Well,
and
yes.
It's important for us to hold our own, especially if you know to do that. Especially if, you know, if you're an honorable person, you're going to honor your parents. That is the first person you know. That's the first person you love. And that should be the most important besides God.
You know something. I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. I want to say this. That's why I agree from my value system as well, and as a psychologist, because that they don't have to earn that respect. That's something we're born with it. It's in us emotionally and spiritually to have that. You know, some parents are talking about a normal situation. I'm not talking about what kids are getting burned and beaten and tortured. I'm talking about normal parents. I started off saying with reasonably normal parents, then it has to always be there. And every religion, without exception, talks about honoring your parents. I don't care what religion we're talking about. Honoring your parents is there. And there's a reason for that. If you don't honor your parents, you're not going to really honor yourself because your parents are internalized within yourself. Very well said.
Situation very similar to not a normal parent. You know, my father left us when we were little and come back and confuse us and leave us again. He was never physically abusive, but that was very emotional abusive.
Very. Growing
up, obviously my teenage years, I wanted to disrespect him and tell him, you know, he didn't deserve a lot of things. He didn't deserve respect. But as I grew older and had kids, I had kids at a very early age of 21. I understand how important it is to honor your parents and have that honor. And, you know, I had that conversation with my dad. I said, hey, I love you, but I need you at a distance. You know, you hurt me when you're close to me. Therefore, you know, I need to hold my distance, but let me, you know, I want to tell you that I will love you and I always love you forever. And I will always respect you. Even if you don't respect me, I will respect you, but at a distance.
Wow. What did he say to that?
He basically, you know, obviously I'm putting 20 years into a 2-minute conversation, but he said, but I told him, hey, whenever you're ready to be my friend, my parent, you know, I'm here for you whenever you want to come back. And he did. We have a wonderful relationship. Wonderful relationship.
Well, you know, you're a strong man. I can see just looking at you, you're a strong man. I see the strength, the power. You emanate that.
And, you know, a lot of people talk about karma. A lot of people talk about what goes around comes around. And a lot of us talk about blessings, right? and doing the right thing. But I have 6 kids, which I have a wonderful relationship with them, and I believe it was because of that.
You know,
I was able to honor my father through a lot of hard times. He didn't know any better. He didn't know any better.
That's the key thing. Let me say this exactly. He may be 1,000 times better father than his father was to him. A lot of times,
he didn't have one.
Well, see, a lot of times the person didn't have a father, or the father was really horrible, so they're less horrible. There's an improvement. We can't even judge him because his upbringing might have been worse. Well, he didn't even have a father. His father just abandoned him altogether. Yeah. So, no, your points are well taken. And then you have that tremendous relationship with your 6 children. And at any time, that's a blessing. And in these times, especially when there's a lot of parent-child discord, wonderful. And your attitude, that's a wonderful attitude. That's actually a very honorable attitude. Excellent.
I had that conversation with my 19-year-old the other day. He says, Dad, respect is earned. I said, maybe out in the street, maybe at your job, at work, at school. I said, but not at home. You're born with your parents who you're supposed to honor. And their mom abandoned them a couple of years ago. And I tell them, you need to honor, you need to respect your mom, even if she's not here. Everywhere you go, you carry her name. What you do out in school, what you do out in the playground, what you do at work, it's a big reflection on her. So you make sure that you honor her. One day she's going to come back.
Well, my position at age 83, 50 years of being a psychologist and having 7 children, is that the parent doesn't have to earn your respect. It's inborn in you to have that. And then you don't want to lose that respect. You don't want that compromise, because that's dangerous for the child to lose the respect. So I would agree. Outside, someone has to earn your respect. With your parent, they brought you into this world. They fed you, clothed you. You have an obligation, a responsibility to your parent. You don't have to like them. You don't have to like them.
That teaches you how to teach your own children about respect.
Let me tell you something. Firstly, I agree with everything you're saying. But let me tell you something. Respect is not a part of our society at this time. So you're fighting against that. A lot of times, in a lot of ways, the society is raising the children around their friends to see how they talk to their parents. And the parents are enabling them. They're not insisting on respect or what boundaries or responsibilities or anything. So it's a tough job today because of the society is not very conducive to keeping that respectful relationship. So it's a tougher job for parents now.
Definitely is. Definitely.
But wonderful. What you are is just a wonderful human being, a wonderful man. Wonderful.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're a good role model for all of us.
Even as a parent, I want to take it a little bit further. I have my kids listen to this.
Oh, good.
Once in a while, not all the time.
Yeah.
Depends on the subject, but my kids listening to the Tuesday meetings at times.
Good. And are you teaching them the commandments of honor?
No, I don't get that much of their attention.
I understand.
To go over them 4 times a day.
No. You can just say, put on the fridge, just put it up on there and say, this is not my fault.
But we've talked about them,
Yeah.
I have very similar roots in me in regards to the honors, which
hey, listen,
I teach them.
I've only 2 of my 7 recite it every day. Recite it and know them by heart. So 5 didn't want to do it. And that's how that goes. Yeah, that's how it goes.
But thank you for your teachings, and thank you for letting us give our opinion.
Well, let me tell you, people are benefiting from your opinion as much or more than mine. People love hearing from each other. So thank you for offering that for all of us. Thank you. Anybody else have anything you want to ask or say?
Hi, Doctor. It's Emily.
Emily. Good, Emily.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm very happy to be here with you. Yes.
Thank you. Same. I just feel like there's so many profound things said, and these situations are very complex. Nothing is one size fits all when it comes to a family dynamic, and I just see so much truth in like not everything, but I see so much truth from every person. Every person speaking has so much truth and so much to contribute to this subject. And I could identify with, I think it was, or is it Ernesto the most? And I think that was just like, so like, I mean, I was just so like, kind of, had no words for it. Like, that was so beautiful what he shared. And I can identify too, because I have, been estranged from my parents before and not spoken to them. And my son has always been like, no, I would never do that to you. I would never, and just getting older and being a parent, like, I know my parents love me, and I know I fall short sometimes. So I try my best to forgive and love them. And sometimes abuse is, takes a toll, even if it's emotional abuse. And if that's happening, yes, keep your distance. But I try my best because I know they're not going to be around forever. And, my dad's getting older, and recently he's had falls and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, like in those moments, I think those things that mattered so much that I was so mad about don't matter to me when I think of my dad being okay or not. So I just think that, forgiveness is great as much as somebody could give. And I just think everybody had such beautiful things to say. I just wanted to say that.
Well, I think that includes you with the beautiful things you have to say. Honor demands what you're doing. And keeping perspective, you realize your father's mortality allows you to helps you get past some of the hurts and resentments you have. And realizing our parents' mortality helps us move forward. Absolutely. We know we're not going to have them forever. And so that helps us say, well, what do I need to say now? Because you don't want to have regrets later. After they're gone, you don't want to regret, gee, I never told my father this, or I never did this for him. You don't want to have that regret. So a good guiding principle is to live without regret and express what needs to be said. Generally, it has to do with expressing more love and appreciation. We could say, I don't like a lot of things you did to me, Dad, but I'm extremely grateful for so much more that you did for me. And a therapist, because it's a very anti-parent society in a lot of ways, a lot of therapists, when you talk to them, to say, what did your mother do to you? What did your father do to you to give you this problem? And so they look at what they did to you. So people found who to blame for all their problems. I know who to blame, my father. I to blame my mother. That they became the scapegoat of the problem we have. But that's not the way therapists should proceed. They really should proceed this way. Let's discuss what your father did for you. Let's discuss what your mother did for you. Once we have that sense of the gratitude and the scope of the amazing things they've done, small and big, now we can look at what they did that was not right. So in the context of gratitude, in the context of the big picture, we can look at that. But if it's not in the context of the big picture, very destructive. And the therapist really, I've known therapists that turn the kids against the parents with that. And it's not that uncommon with them. They really need to include what they've done for you before they look what they've done to you. Key.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Emily, for bringing this up. Thank you so much. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, Emily. So great as always. Well, it's been my pleasure and my privilege to be here with you. Got this time to share this time, very enjoyable for me. Presenting the secret to being the best father you can be.
The sea of destiny is in your deepest struggle. God's will and mine be one, and I wish you well. You are co-creator, respectfully real. There's a way in the valley that turns weakness to steel. We're known through all eternity. From strife we gain power, clothed in grace and love, disciples of honor. All the days of our lives refuse the way of shame. We wish nobody harm, have no one to blame. Your high calling will be done, and pure eyes now glow. In darkness crave the good, like waters from the desert flow. I pledge my love all the days of my life. I pledge my soul to all that is good. I pledge my heart to my brothers and sisters who I join in the light, leave a legacy of honor. We're known through all eternity. From strife we gain power, clothed in grace and love, disciples of honor. All the days of our lives refuse the way of shame. We wish nobody harm, have no one to blame. Your high calling will be done, and pure eyes now glow. In darkness crave the good, like waters from the desert flow.